This morning's guest will spark your interest about lymphedema. Meet Laura Flint, coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at Villa Romana, Italian restaurant, the Italian restaurant of the year between 7th and 8th Avenue South on Kings Highway in Myrtle Beach. We're focused on lymphedema, and we're visiting with the local physical therapist, Laura Flint. Good morning, Laura.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming in early on a Thursday morning.
I know. We're going to need some
more coffee. And you brought a lot of props. That's right. Hopefully Claudio or Ronaldo. What about this Villa Romana? This is a great place. Have you been here before?
Oh, many times.
Yeah,
it's exemplary.
It is exemplary.
It's exemplary. Ottimo, like they say in Italian.
Ultimo. I don't think I can get that out. And I understand you're friends with the owners.
Yes. And
Fran
you
and
too?
Ronaldo, and I love Fran and Ronaldo.
God, yes,
yes.
God, yes, they're fabulous. It's a family affair.
A family-owned restaurant, a family affair, very popular. Of course, Claudio Montrose was with us yesterday here, right here in the restaurant, 7 a.m. He was sitting here. It's very interesting.
We're taking our turns, are we?
That's right, yes. It's the week of, we've got a special week on Tuesday, a young woman who taught English in Japan for 3 years, was in Japan for 3 years, was with us. We kicked off the week promoting gastronomy with Crystal Hummer of the March of Dimes. The area director of the March of Dimes was promoting the Taste of the Town, which was this past Monday evening, you know. And then, of course, tomorrow, Catherine Levinas from the American Art Association will be with us. So it's great to get you in here on a Thursday morning. Of course, all these great props. You've got a lot of stuff.
Well, there's a lot to explain, I guess.
On lymphedema.
On lymphedema. People have don't even know what it is, to be honest with you. Lymphedema occurs in someone's body when lymphatic fluid backs up.
When
lymphatic fluid backs up. And when lymphatic fluid backs up, it becomes an unrelenting swelling that needs to be managed and controlled, probably for the rest of the patient's life. So our program is set up so that the patient can ultimately become independent in dealing with their lymphedema.
Is lymphatic fluid all through my body?
Yes, you can take a look at this.
Here, let me hold that up. Sure.
This chart
I can see kind of through that.
If you imagine your body and you imagine your heart beating and all of your vessels, your arteries and veins, you know, you're pumping blood through that system. And if you take a big old Spider-Man coat and put it on top of that system, you see this system here that's being illustrated. And it's the lymphatic system. It's our sludge system. It's the system that takes out the big molecules and dumps it into the intestine so that we can evacuate it as human beings.
Right.
These lymphatic node clusters, some in the neck, of course, some in the armpits, and a lot in the groin and inguinal area, are where all these channels of fluid kind of go to and ultimately exit the body. This is an absolutely essential system for our immune systems.
For our immune system.
Yes, we must be able to excrete, must we not? As humans, we must be able to take food in and get rid of garbage, basically.
Right.
And this is our sludge system. And if it's backed up, it's critical. If, for example, this area here, say, on a lady who's probably had a mastectomy or something, which is a very common diagnosis we deal with, if these lymph node clusters are damaged or somehow injured or not there for whatever reason, this arm will blow up. And if it's not controlled, it'll become red and hot, become what we call cellulitic, or she will have cellulitis, and it will become a medical emergency. And
how long does it take to get big, or for instance?
That's a very good question, to get big. What we have found out, in the old days, they used to think that every time someone had an insult to a lymphatic cluster, that they may or may not get lymphedema. But what we have found with certain studies is that if the lymphatic clusters are challenged or injured at all, there's always some percentage of lymphedema. Now, if you had 5% of lymphedema in your arm, it probably wouldn't bother you. You wouldn't notice it, you know. But if it was 85%, you certainly would notice it.
You said it would be warm and...
Yes, it gets warm and hot when it gets critical. Some people can go and the arm can blow up, and it can be unrelenting swelling, or the leg can have unrelenting swelling, and it doesn't get warm and hot right off the bat, but it can down the road, and that's what we want to prevent.
How many folks in the area are impacted by lymphedema?
A large number of people in my practice are people who have gone through the unbelievable diagnosis of cancer. And have gone through radiation, and have gone through axillary resection, for example, damage to the lymph nodes. Some of my patients are patients that have primary lymphedema, which they're born with. I actually could have lived 25 years in this business and not seen a primary case. But here in Myrtle Beach, a little guy walked in, 10 years old, and he had a swollen leg. And we were controlling his little swollen leg, with his compression stocking.
Right.
He got made fun of at school because he had a compression stocking. So his father, instead of his mother, came in one day to talk about how we were going to manage to get him to always wear his compression stocking. And we ended up putting this SpongeBob SquarePants on his stocking. It became cool. And then he wore it. But guess what? The father walked in with him, and the father had the same left leg swelling.
No.
And so did the grandfather.
Oh,
had the same left leg swelling. So it can be something that's inherited because you are born with a deficient lymphatic system, or it could be an injury to the lymphatic system. And fundamentally, when poor people go through cancer treatments in this country, and they have to do invasive surgeries or radiation, quite often lymphedema is a secondary effect of all of that. Many of my patients are mastectomy victims. As a matter of fact, they're so courageous that you know about the Dragon Ladies, don't you? They're doing that boat with Georgetown Hospital. They're going to be rowing to increase awareness of breast cancer and
good for them. That's critical.
We
want to talk a little more about you, Laura, but for viewers who may need to get off to work now or get family off to school, what's a good way to reach you, either visiting your website, I believe specialtyphysicaltherapy.com. Do you all have a phone number?
My phone number is 843-651-7513.
Okay, 843-651-7513. Okay.
Quite often people go through a cancerous problem or go through an injury, and lymphedema manifests 18 years later. One of my patients had a mastectomy 18 years ago. She went down in Florida to visit her children, her grandchildren, and ended up throwing a ball to her grandson, and that one precipitating event was the thing that overwhelmed the arm, and it blew up and gave her a problem. So lymphedema can kind of strike. The body will try to keep the balance, try to keep it together, and then something will happen that it'll be so compromised it'll go over the edge. So everybody says, oh, well, I came out of that cancer thing and that radiation, I'm unscathed. Well, I think that people have to be aware and be made aware that they still have to protect that quadrant of the body, and be very gentle with it. Also, we've had patients, for example, that have had snake bites that come in, and for some reason the venom manages to get into the lymphatic, and lymphedema ensues.
I was seeing some of the shots that you provided or showed early this morning before we began filming looked indicative, or looked like a snake bite to me, or the swelling that has occurred. My daughter's had a lot of severe ant bites at points in her life and have caused a lot of swelling. Fire ants down here at kids' parties at school or otherwise.
Spider bites.
Right.
That whole thing is incredible swelling. We have found, though, with our regimen that we're doing down here in Murrells Inlet, that with certain vascular surgeons in the area that notice that their patients have combo cases, which are vascular edema, meaning swelling from the circulation, from arteries and veins, or heart problems, that combine and become an overshoot, or become overwhelmed and go into the lymphatic system, so that the patient ends up having a vascular lymphatic combo case. We find that our regimen does very well in those patients as well.
Really good.
So at least I think we can offer this kind of service to more diagnostic groups as we go along.
Great. Real quick about yourself, Laura. Are you originally from the area?
No, I'm from Washington, D.C.
Oh, good. Okay. And you've been down here how long?
South of Mason-Dixon line.
South, barely. Yeah, barely.
Yes, I've been down here since 2000.
Okay. Were you in D.C. all that time prior?
No, I was raised in Italy.
Oh, in Italy. So you know a little bit of Italian food.
Well,
do these guys know how to do it right?
Oh, honey.
Yeah.
They sure do.
They do. Good.
They're very quintessentially Roman. Yes.
Yes, they are.
It's a wonderful,
even
wonderful
France.
cuisine.
Right.
Oh, yeah. But
so you grew up, or excuse me, you said you didn't grow up in Italy.
Yeah, I was in kindergarten, first and second grade in Italy, and then in Germany. and then we came home because of my father's work.
Right. Key years of your life. Yeah.
Yes, and key language producing years, which was kind of cool. So it sticks with me, but then again, if I go for too long, I kind of lose it, and then I come in here, speak to Claudio and Ronaldo, and I get it back.
Yeah, that is great. Well, it was thrilling to have Ronaldo open up the show this morning. Of course, to have Claudio with us yesterday, and so much has to happen at the same time during your short tenure in Horry County, now right over 7 years. You've also been very active in Theater of the Republic. I'm going to hold this up. I'm not sure if viewers can catch that, some glimpses of you of different performances you've been in.
Well, everybody kind of has to have their golf game around here, don't they?
That's right.
This is kind of my golf game.
This is your golf game. Yeah. Theater of the Republic there in downtown Conway has really been a tremendous venue for getting out your creative juices, it looks
Absolutely,
like.
absolutely. And I've been a board member, and it's just a wonderful, it's a gem.
Some of these
in the Grand Strand, it truly is.
I hate to say it looks like Diane Devon Stokes has been dropped in on a few of these pictures. Are you sure
Diane
is not
so
right there?
We served on the board
together. Looks like Diane there. Trying to see.
We kind of do look like sisters, don't we? We're Irish.
There's another Diane shot. I think that's the one. That really does look like her.
You think? Oh, well, I can't wait to throw that at her.
At least through the back end here. Yeah. I'm going to have to tell her that.
Poor Diane.
Yeah, that's right. She's not watching now. She's getting ready for her own show. But, of course, we've got some, and I'm so glad you brought some pieces in. I want to make sure we take the time because, as you said before we started filming, the pictures really speak 1,000 words.
Yes, and it's kind of hard to verbally explain this without pictorials. People don't seem to understand. If you look at this picture here, this shows what lymphedema does typically. You will have a swelling. Like if my hand were to swell and simply be bigger than the other hand, that's one thing. But if my hand then starts to lose its shape because of the swelling, like these ankles have, you see the swelling is coming kind of like over the ankles. That is a very, very typical sign of lymphedema.
And this is all internal, or there's nothing I could do. For instance, if I'm wearing tight socks, it's not going to cause any problems here.
Well, what we literally do in our regimen is provide compression garments for the patients, which I guess, you're kind of deducing the right thing here in the sense that we need to have proper gradient support, custom-made garments for these patients so that they can control the lymphedema, the swelling with external pressure. The body at this point, after it's gotten to this point, simply needs the external pressure, and these individuals must learn how to manage their life with the special garments. And it's really right now because of what they've come up with. You see, feel this. It's a very thin polymer.
Oh, wow, it sure is.
And I can get clinically about 50 millimeters of mercury pressure from that thin material.
And these different colors are colors that folks can wear?
Thank God we finally got some different colors because it helps, especially with the female population, with compliance. Right. If somebody doesn't want to wear their garment and doesn't wear it, and then the thing gets out of control, it doesn't help me with clinical compliance.
Sure.
So if I can deal with the cosmetic aspects or the cosmesis of it, then I think all of us are in better shape.
That's a big word for 7 a.m. here.
Yeah, please. Give me another cup of coffee.
That's right. That's right. And that is very important, not only for women, but for men.
For men too, yeah, because men typically order the beige or the brown or the blue for their suits and things. They hide it under their pants. Nobody knows.
My own socks that are real tight, and if I had lymphedema, that could potentially be helpful.
Right. Well, if you do a lot of air travel, you would want to have about 15 millimeters of mercury on your knee-high compression socks, especially if you do a lot of it. Not 50 certainly, but at least 15, because all of us get off the plane and have to walk around the airport to kind of, and that's one of the risk factors for lymphedema patients in the modern world. They have to really watch because in a pressurized cabin, it can cause them to swell.
Again, if folks need to get off to work now, specialtyphysicaltherapy.com or 843-651-7513. And of course, are there other folks in the area that treat lymphedema? This is a non-commercial show, but the opportunity to really learn about this and see, even if a viewer may know whether themselves or a loved one or their parent or their children
there
may
are
have
other
lymphedema.
People, I think predominantly massage therapists who have taken a 2-week certification course that know how to do manual lymphatic drainage, which is really wonderful.
Who are some of the folks with you there in Murrells Inlet that help? Is it principally just you?
I'm the only physical therapy practice in Murrells Inlet, and because I'm the only physical therapist, people who have insurance can avail themselves of the service. Whereas with massage the situation, typically it would be money directly out of pocket, and that's tough for a lot of people to handle because with this kind of problem, you need daily or every other day intervention for a while until you get it under control.
Yeah.
So, but this that I showed you here with the colors and stuff and the thin material is like a day sleeve or a day kind of compression garment that the patient wears during the day.
Right.
This is what I found in a convention called a reed sleeve, which is a nighttime kind of a garment. It looks like something out of Darth Vader, doesn't it?
Yeah, let's see if we can hold that up there.
But
wow.
The beauty of this little baby is that you can vary the compression. You see it's got a Velcro closure on each level.
Very important, yeah.
We can calibrate.
I've seen some people, you say this is only at night, though.
Well, typically at night.
Right,
I'm not saying a patient wouldn't like just leave the house with it on if it's comfortable for them. They might.
Sure.
But you can vary the compression at each level depending on what the configuration of the patient's arm is. You can calibrate it to their comfort.
Right.
For example, we had initially calibrated, we do 30 millimeters of mercury to start on these. And one of the ladies took it home and wore it very successfully at night, and then when she woke up in the morning, it had pushed the lymphedema too fast and went into her trunk. So what we did is we knocked it down to 20 millimeters of mercury. She was fine.
Really?
And it gives them those extra hours of compression so that in the morning they start further away from cellulitis. Because as they go through their day and they move their arm and their bodies work, the lymphedema gathers. It's a continuum.
Well, some of the, of course, some of the other photos here, I know we didn't bring, we principally have some examples of, so that viewers, if they see that, they know this is something that could be treated. But at the same time, is there, this is the two arms there, one of them is particularly bad.
The right arm here is definitely got a swelling here. This is what we call a Popeye formation.
Right.
Her hand and her forearm are kind of bigger than her upper arm, and you can see the difference between the two arms visually. We, of course, take measurements and put it in the computer at the clinic.
Right.
But the last patient that had a Popeye formation that was referred to my practice was a lady who was seen in the Walmart line by another one of our patients.
Is that
who
right?
had her sleeve on, and he said, "Gee, I have my sleeve. Where's your sleeve? You must have lymphedema." And she says, "Oh, yeah, well, I didn't know." She said, "I didn't know anything could be done about it." And so my patient networked with her, in essence, and told her where we were, and she ended up coming and getting treatment and getting control.
Is that right?
So I'm really appreciative to you to help us get the word out, not only to the populace, but hopefully a few physicians, and drinking their coffee this morning.
Point. Absolutely.
Well, probably seen a few of these patients.
What can physicians do if they've well, but real quick, the left arm is kind of like a before and after.
Yes.
I mean, this is a good example of what they would want their right arm to look like the left.
Yes, and we try to get it as close to the other arm as possible, and we use the other arm as the baseline figures.
I'm sure a lot of doctors have seen examples, and they probably wonder, can I, as the doctor, do anything about it? They don't need to.
And they probably don't know that we're here.
Right.
Or they typically, after, let's say, for example, let's take a cancer patient as an example going through the medical system. They go through all of the radiation and the chemotherapy that they have to go through.
Right.
And then lymphedema ensues later. And they go to not their oncologist, because their oncologists have done their job. They've done a beautiful job. They've discharged the patient appropriately. Now the patient's gone back to their internal medicine guy. And he doesn't see it as often as the oncologists do.
Right.
And he doesn't know what he does. He thinks, oh my God, there's got to be a blood clot. And that's, of course, the way they're trained. And they're going to rule out blood clot. So they'll probably do some diagnostics to find out if the patient is a threat from a circulatory perspective. Or they'll give them Lasix to see if they can reduce the swelling. And many of the referrals that we have for lymphedema come to us because the physician realizes after a certain bout of Lasix there's no resolve to the edema. It must be lymphatic, so they send it to us.
Wow.
So it's kind of interesting. But the two systems, the circulatory system and the lymphatic system, are very, very intimately connected. We even find at the American Society of Lymphology, the research coming from Germany and Australia indicate that embryologically the venous system and the lymphatic system are the same cells, and they differentiate out. So they come from the same root. So that really helps us with our research.
I put these up only because a lot of viewers probably have seen examples themselves, either on a loved one or otherwise, and didn't think there was anything they could do. I know I've seen aspects of that even with my own father, who wears, he may have seen a physical therapist like yourself, and of course the great thing is the opportunity to be able to turn to insurance for some help there.
Yes.
But he wears socks.
This leg is obviously having a lymphatic overlay going into the calf, but it is clearly a combo case. And thankfully, this patient has not lost the configuration of the shape of the leg. It simply has blown up in the calf a little bit. This was incredibly successfully handled with our regimen. We just do some impeccable skin care, of course, because we have to make sure the skin is always intact. And then we go into manual lymphatic drainage, compression wrappings that reduce the legs, and then we measured the patient for compression garments, and it was simply knee highs with zippers.
Yeah, I bet you a lot of folks have seen that and just didn't know there was anything they could do about it. Thought it was just old age. We've got one more good example here. We've only got about 5 minutes, Laura.
Okay, but this also shows kinesio tape, which is a tape that physical therapists typically use for orthopedic injuries. Like, you know, if you hear of an athlete getting taped and then sent back into the game? Okay, that kinesio tape, it comes from Japan, and it's used for that. But in the clinic one day, we decided to use it on a truncal problem, specifically on a mastitis that came through. And we took the tape and made it like fingers, and we put it along the channels, the lymphatic channels, and by George, it's like having a therapeutic hand on the skin as the patient moves. It just literally helps to massage, in essence, or circulate the lymphatic fluid out of the area.
That's fascinating.
So we do a lot of different little tricks to kind of make sure that not only the arm or the leg is checked, but also the trunk is checked.
And again, that's a little more like a before and after. We want that arm to become more like that.
Exactly.
That arm to become more like that. And that's
the fact that we're able to show the pictures is just so much more effective, I think.
Absolutely. Well, of course, and I know we brought this out. I don't know if we still need to pull that up, but we've got about 4 minutes, Laura.
Most people would say, oh, that's your circulatory system. That's my heart and my arteries and my veins. But no, this is your lymphatic system, and it's kind of like superimposed on top of the circulatory system. And so you have all the nodes in the neck, in the armpits, in the groin, and it's all ultimately dumping into the intestine. And we just, when the body has small molecules to get rid of, it puts it into the blood, and quickly the blood takes it into the kidneys, right? Kidneys filter out the blood, and then we tinkle out all the little things. Right? And that's why doctors use urinalysis to find out what the body is dumping, right? And in the case of the lymphatics, let's say you had strep throat, and the body took all these white phagocytic cells and surrounded that strep throat bacteria. Now that thing is a huge molecule. Where is it going to put it? It dumps it into the lymphatics.
You made my job so easy this morning, Laura. I should bring in guests with props more often. Just hold it up in front of my face. Let you talk.
The lymphatics, though, they're slower than circulation. And they're kind of more like sludge, and it's like that's the way, and that's why yoga, relaxation, certain types of manual lymphatic drainage activate the lymphatic system. And I think that's also why this is so effective, because it's during the night.
Do folks ever just pop into your office, Laura? I mean, do you encourage folks to come by?
I always encourage that. We're really a referral business, but yeah, that happens every once in a while.
Where are you all located? Obviously in Merle's Inlet. You said you're the only physical therapist in Merle's Inlet?
I think pretty much in the Grand Strand.
Oh, come on. Who handles lymphedema?
We see physical therapy.
There's a lot of physical therapists, though, right?
Right. The myth that we were kind of trying to address initially with the interview is most people think physical therapists just handle hip fractures and strokes and amputations.
Isn't that all they do? Yeah. Right.
But, you know, there are so many, there are pediatric physical therapists and cardiac physical therapists and lymphedema physical therapists. Now, we have as many specialties as medicine, basically. So the fact that there's this niche that has not been addressed, I'm welcoming other colleagues to please come and become interested in it. But I think the young therapists want to do
this same
things.
Number doctors can call, or their support staff, 651-7513, of course, to go online. Will they see some of these pictures? Is there a place where they need to come in the office to see these before and after?
Now that you've had the interview with you, I think I'll put more of these types of pictures on the website. And
great idea.
They'll see themselves, or they'll see their patients in the website.
Their pictures are, I mean, their faces are redacted. No one can see their faces.
Right.
Obviously,
no
privacy issues to be concerned about. But if a viewer was coming to visit, they'd be traveling down 17 Business, right through the heart of Merle's Inlet.
Right, past the restaurants. And if they get back on the bypass, way down in the south end, they've gone too far. We're almost the last building there. On the right, we're called the Creek Professional Suites.
Great.
We're at 5276 Highway 17 Business South.
Okay, 5276 Highway 17 Business South. That's wonderful. Right there in Merle's Inlet. The seafood capital of South Carolina.
Oh, honey.
Yeah.
She crab soup.
Yeah, there's some. I'm trying to think where the best she crab soup is.
I don't know. I'll put Cedar Hill Landing up on you.
Yes, absolutely. Cedar Hill Landing, virtually across the street from your. One other thing I think a lot of folks wonder, in some of these pictures here, we can't really tell the sex, but is this a girl thing?
No, it's a guy thing too. It's an everybody thing. Because a guy can get damaged lymphatics. Let's say that gentleman had prostate cancer and they were irradiating the inguinal area.
Right.
The leg might blow up, and quite frequently it does, and we end up managing the leg. With women, quite often it's kind of pelvic stuff. If they have the cancers of the uterus and the ovary. And
I got to ask this last question. We got 30 seconds. What got you so interested in this, Laura?
I've been a therapist 32, 33 years or so, and it just fascinated me. I did orthopedics and gerontology and cardiac rehab, a lot of different aspects of physical therapy, and I think it's probably the reason why I'm still a physical therapist today, because there's so much variety in the field that it's kind of like once you've learned something, and if you're a quick study like I am, you don't get too bored or burned out. You go to the next specialty, and it becomes an incredible fascination. And it also, when I studied the area, it became an area that I knew was not addressed.
Right.
And needed to be addressed.
Absolutely.
The Grand Strand needs to know that we're here.
That's great.
And
Laura,
I appreciate
thanks so much for being with us this morning. Very definitely.
Thank you so much.
Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Laura Flint coming up next. We ran out of time, just ran out of time. Ran out of time, couldn't focus on the big Christmas show at Theater of the Republic there in Conway. I'm holding up this picture here, and you're wondering, how can you be talking about a Christmas show? But this is serious stuff. Laura Flint, or Flint as she's known by friends and family, and obviously lots of patients. This is a big deal. Take a look at that. Before and after. If you've seen friends or loved ones, family members, or even you yourself, whether it's this pronounced or even something just a little more than that, the lymphedema could be the cause there. Could be the real problem you need to be thinking about. 651-7513, 651-7513, Specialty Physical Therapy. Specialty Physical Therapy right there in Merle's Inlet. Easy to find right before 17 Business and Bypass wrap up. Look at that. This is serious stuff. Take the time to learn more about lymphedema. Go online to specialtyphysicaltherapy.com, specialtyphysicaltherapy.com.